dan sesi itu diteruskan dengan sesi pertama iaitu taklimat perundingan. Puan Hasna akan menerangkan kepada kita tentang projek perundingan dengan bayaran, tanpa bayaran dan macam mana projek-projek itu diintegrasi ke dalam sistem MyATP. Sekarang ni mungkin kita tak ada KPI untuk perundingan, tetapi perundingan merupakan satu perkara yang wajib untuk pensyarah lakukan sebab ada dalam MyATP masing-masing. Okey, jadi mungkin kita akan mendapat pendedahan yang lebih lah daripada daripada Puan Nur Hasnah sebentar lagi. Okey. Kemudian sesi kedua akan diteruskan dengan taklimat tentang inovasi iaitu pendaftaran harta intelek dan pengkomersialan. Dan akhirnya sesi soal jawab dan kita akan berakhir lebih kurang pukul 1 petang bergantung kepada penceramah lah. Okey, jadinya mari kita sama-sama menjemputlah penceramah kita daripada Shah Alam iaitu penceramah pertama iaitu Puan Nur Hasnah Mak Sahir selaku Ketua Unit Perundingan Bitkom UiTM Shah Alam. Silakan Puan ya. Terima kasih.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Okey tak dia punya reception sana?
Okey Puan, clear.
Okay, alright. Sebentar ya, saya nak sharekan. Mana dia? Sebentar ya. Sebab saya guna Mac, jadi dia punya layout tu saya kena ubah sikit. Saya kena letak dia dekat belakang. Okay, nampak tak slide?
Nampak Puan?
Okay, alright. Okay, Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi semua. Terima kasih kepada Puan Adriana ya, atas jemputan kami dari Bitkom. So sebelum tu mungkin saya perkenalkan dululah Bitkom ni bagaimana struktur Bitkom di dalam di bawah Jabat TNCTI ya. So Bitkom ni asalnya adalah dia bukan IRMI tapi dia adalah RIBU. RIBU dijenamakan semula sebagai Bitkom So Bitkom Business Innovation and Technology Commercializations, di mana objektif utama Bitkom adalah untuk dia punya main function adalah consultancy, commercialization dan pengurusan IP. Okey, untuk pagi ni kami akan perkenalkan sedikit macam mana link Bitkom dengan pejabat TNCPI, kemudian consultancy and professional services, bagaimana kita boleh menjana pendapatan melalui consultancy, dan my colleague akan discuss on commercialization and IP management, ya. Okay, so introduction to Bitkom. Our mission to be the leading source of high value talent and commercialization hub in Malaysia. So kita punya fokus, ya, tidak hanya consultancy and commercializations, but one of our function is actually to groom our talent. So when we talk about our talent, ni termasuklah all the lecturers, ya, staff UiTM dan juga staff-staff di Bitkom. So those are these are the people that under the responsibility of Bitkom to groom so that we can market our expertise and our product better. Okay, our vision to professionally discover, manage and promote talent, research product and innovative solutions for UiTM. So kat sini kita punya scope is instead of just focus on the talent sahaja, we have on our board is people our pengarah urusan adalah someone from the industry. So kat sini adalah untuk groom kita punya expertise dan juga to focus on the product so that we can market better, we can position ourselves better in the industry. Okay, so our strategic objective to establish Bitkom business competitiveness through strategic talent management on quality, cost and knowledge management. So maksud dia kat sini kita akan to make Bitkom a platform so that we can market our talent and market our product at an effective quality, cost and in terms of knowledge advancement, yeah. And then to establish Bitkom as innovative technology commercialization hub in Malaysia. So for this one, we have actually quite a few strategies in line in order to market our product besides our normal licensing. Yeah? So we have in our plan to actually probably in the future we can set up a virtual mall. Yeah? And then to establish Bitkom as the leading technology investment entity within all IPTA, IPTS in Malaysia. Yeah? So in order to market our product, investment is very important, and we are also looking into channel that people can invest in the product. Okay, Bitkom mandates, yeah, is to promote your product and innovations, to promote your talent. So this is the two main things that we are going to promote, yeah. So we, the expertise and the product that we created. Okay, in terms of structure, Bitkom is under TNCPI, yeah, just like Ribu. Basically the same functions, but our direction will be slightly different, yeah. So the direction is actually to privatize Bitkom, but still under a wholly owned company of UiTM. Okay, that is our future move lah. Yeah. Wholly owned company, but we are still reporting to the NCPI. Yeah. Okay, general model for our general model for Bitkom. It is from UiTM staff in terms of services, in terms of product, and to our client. So our client can be a private company, can be the government, corporate entities, yeah. So basically it is, Bitkom is a hub, yeah. It's a hub to market our talent, our product to the industry. Okay, how we are going to market, yeah, consultancy by generating consultancy fee and the dividend from the company privatizations. Once Bitkom is privatized, of course, UiTM will enjoy some dividend and royalties from the product that we market and licensing fees from the product that we sell actually. Okay, now on consultancy and professional services, yeah. So consultancy basically bringing experts from UiTM to the industry, okay? And what is the benefits of consultancy? One is MyATP. There will be an automatic update at MyATP, meaning that MyATP already will take the data direct from Bitkom, yeah. And then we also, from time to time, will provide staff promotional exercise, yeah. And then once staff register their consultancy project, yeah, they will become an experts and they will be in our database, meaning that in case the industry need expertise, we can easily search from our database and we can easily link the industry and the experts. And then legitimate professional activities, yeah, meaning that once you register your consultancy task or your consultancy project, so it is a legitimate income generating activities with UiTM. And then in the future, of course, Bitkom will also market the expertise that UiTM has and also the product. Myra Score, yes, we also contribute to Myra Score, yeah. Myra Score in terms of contract research, in terms of consultancy, even MOA also carries some score under Myra. Okay, by definition, yeah, by definition in our policy, consultancy involve individual or group of individual in providing expertise to the public sector, private sector or statutory bodies in Malaysia or overseas, which meets each of the policies laid down by the university and the government and subject to changes from time to time. Okay, so you can see that the scope, the definition is not rigid, yeah. The definition gives a very wide scope in terms of what can be classified as consultancy, okay. So the definition is purposely done in such a way so that almost anything can be considered as consultancy project. However, we divide, yeah, in the policy, we divide consultancy into two. One is for organizations that is outside UiTM, and the other one is within UiTM. Okay, so for other organizations, it has to be a paid services. Okay, and it has to have official offer letter from the company, and it is not a core responsibility. Yeah, so meaning that ianya bukan tugas hakiki. Yeah, so this can be considered as consultancy. But there is exceptions. Activities as members of the board of directors or as a fellow is not to be considered as consultancy project. Okay, and then for within UiTM, it has to be paid services, and then it also requires official letter, yeah, and also not our core responsibility. For example, okay. We as a lecturer, yeah, our core responsibility ataupun tugas hakiki is to lecture within whatever that has been assigned to us in the timetable. Yeah, so whatever that is beyond that can be registered as consultancy. But of course, there is exceptions. Activity as member of UiTM internal committee. Yeah. So any AJK cannot be registered as consultancy. Okay. However, there is one special exemptions where as an invited speaker, for example, and you are paid on an hourly rate. Contoh, you are paid RM100 per hour, or you are paid RM150 per hour. Okay, so the payment is based on how many hours you contribute. Yeah, how many hours you giving lectures. Maybe as an invited speaker, so that can the person has an options, yeah, whether they want to register their activity or they can they have the option not to register, yeah. So maksudnya kat sini, if you are paid as an invited speaker, where the payment is per hour, you boleh daftar, ataupun you boleh juga jika ianya tidak didaftarkan. Ya, maknanya tidak menjadi kesalahan untuk tidak mendaftar apa-apa task yang you dibayar on hourly basis.
Puan, nak tanya boleh?
Boleh?
Okey, berkenaan dengan services yang kita offered within UiTM tu, contoh kalau kita ni lecturer FSSR, Fakulti Seni Lukis Seni Reka, so kita ada kepakaran lah contoh untuk buat apa-apalah dalam UiTM. Okey, tapi di luar bukanlah contohnya satu jabatan tu perlukan lecturer daripada FSSR ni untuk buat macam contoh renovation ke dekat situ. Maknanya kita appoint dia dan boleh tak kita UiTM bayar kepada lecturer tu? And that one is considered as consultancy.
Boleh? So anything that is, actually the definition is very wide. Yeah, definition dia macam as long as it is not your hakiki. So hakiki is the one that we base whether it can be considered as consultancy or not. Okay. So provided that there is an official letter. Maknanya
means tak salah lah UiTM bayar kepada lecturer sendiri, kan? Maknanya boleh lah dibenarkan.
Ya. Yeah. By definition, that's why kita tak define sama ada jabatan tu di luar or even probably just a small jabatan. As long as there is an official letter. And then there is it's beyond tugas hakiki. So anything extra than our normal hakiki can be considered as consultancy.
Okey Puan, terima kasih.
Sama.
Puan, saya nak tanya. Okey, kalau macam tu, contohnya macam kes FSSR punya pensyarah tadi contoh dia buat renovation tadi dan dia getting paid, dia kena declare bahawa dia buat consultation, betul tak?
Betul.
Kemudian dia ada fraction lah yang division berapa persen ke tabung ini, berapa persen ke tabung ini, dia kena buat yang itu jugalah.
Yes, maknanya dia kena first dapatkan surat surat lantikan.
Okey. Alright, faham. Okay, terima kasih.
Alright. Ada lagi? So biasanya by definition, normally when I do a route tour ke branch, the issue normally on the definition of consultancy, what can be registered and what cannot be registered. And believe me, normally when we go to many branches, they have kind of unique questions on what can be classified as consultancy. Ada macam-macam. So, okay. So in terms of in the policies and guidelines, projek perundingan wajib didaftarkan. Okay, so there are three things based on three things that we declare that consultancy project need to be registered. One, because in the dasar under clause 9.1, tindakan tata tertib bersabit kesalahan adalah di bawah Akta 605. Maknanya memang wajib didaftarkan kecuali yang dibayar per 1 hour as an invited speaker, you have the options. Other than that, memang kena daftar. And then the other reason why we need to register is for MIRA. So consultancy, for branches mungkin not at the moment doesn't affect MIRA, but for Shah Alam, yes, we have to register because of the MIRA score. But right now even for cawangan, MyATP does affect maknanya perundingan does contribute to MyATP calculations. And then for penjanaan pendapatan universiti, the university still need to generate income. So that is one of the reason why consultancy need to be registered.
Puan nak tanya juga, untuk Myra tadi, consultation berbayar dan tidak berbayar ataupun berbayar sahaja diregisterkan, dimasukkan dalam Myra?
Okay. Myra hanya consider yang berdasarkan duit masuk. Okay.
Oh, berbayar sahaja.
So even though project tu 100,000, registered as 100,000, but for that year cuma bayaran adalah 50,000. Hanya 50,000 yang dikira untuk Myra, because Myra is totally money based.
Okay, baik, terima kasih.
Okay, and then exemptions, there is exemptions. These are some of the categories of consultancy, but not limited to. So if you go back to the original definitions, original definition of consultancy is the scope is very wide. It's like almost anything, but the guideline is tugas hakiki. As long as it is beyond our tugas hakiki, we can register that as consultancy. However, there is one exemptions, this is under the policy of our bendahari, whereby seminar and training considered as faculty activities which must be done under tabung amanah. Okay, so at the moment this is the only one, seminar dan latihan. This is the only two things that required to be registered under the faculty. But we are also in the process of getting permissions to actually conduct seminar and training, meaning that to treat seminar and training as consultancy. So when we talk about seminar and training here, it's not as invited speaker. As an invited speaker, we register them as an invited speaker. But seminar and training here is the activity that is carried out by the faculty. Maknanya kita invite participant in, Kita advertise our training, kita advertise our seminar, and participant register with us, and we collect the training fee. So this is the kind of activity that we will not register as consultancy at the moment. Other than that, is considered as consultancy.
Assalamualaikum, Doktor.
Waalaikumsalam.
So I just want to ask you, my name is Anwas. I want to ask you about, let's say, you have your own company. For instance, there is a number of lecturers in UiTM. I'm pretty sure that they have their own company. I don't know whether they declared or not, but the problem is sekarang ni semua orang nak membantu universiti untuk menjana pendapatan. So let's say dia ada company sendiri, and adakah yang pertama dia perlu declare dengan PTJ ke, ataupun ada satu unit di UiTM yang ambil tahu dan mahukan pensyarah ini maklumkan kepada universiti dia ada syarikat, didaftarkan. Macam student, kita galakkan student SSM. Kenapa student digalakkan tapi pensyarah question mark? So another thing is macam sekarang kita ada syarikat. Let's say kita buat training, bila kita nak buat jaringan, katakan daftar di bawah perundingan mendaftar. Yang pertama soalan saya, adakah dalam sistem universiti ni UiTM, pensyarah yang ada syarikat sendiri, dia perlu maklumkan kepada PJJ ke PJI ataupun RMI dan sebagainya, supaya bila dia buat konsultansi ke whatever things macam perundingan, ada certain portion tu boleh diberi untuk penjanaan universiti itu sendiri. Yang kedua, contohnya satu lagi masalah yang selalu saya melihat adalah dari segi birokrasi. For instance, universiti ada agenda yang bagus untuk menjana pendapatan dan pensyarah ni efisien. Mereka masing-masing cari jalan sendiri untuk mendaftar dan memberi pulangan kepada universiti. Masalahnya adalah syarikat luar ataupun organisation, dia bagi surat offer letter tu direct kepada that lecturer. Dia tak bagi pada PTJ. So the second question is, ada masalah ke kalau, sebab bila kita nak menjana pendapatan, kita kena maknanya ada kontak di luar lah. Bila ada kontak, dia direct pada lecturer. So lecturer tu tak ada masalah kan, tak semestinya surat tu mesti dihantar pada VC ke, hantar pada rektor ke, hantar pada dean ke. Maknanya dia boleh hantar pada lecturer, tapi lecturer tu bawa surat tu ikut SOP universiti dan juga PJI dan sebagainya. Akhirnya berlakulah proses perundingan mendaftar itu. Terima kasih Prof.
Okey, ada 2 soalan sini ya. Okey, yang pertama saya jawab yang birokrasi ya. Sebenarnya kami tak tetapkan bahawa apa-apa surat tawaran atau surat lantikan perlu atas nama PTJ ya. As long as there is a surat lantikan, what we practice in Shah Alam, walaupun surat lantikan ataupun surat tawaran tu atas nama fakulti ataupun atas nama pensyarah tu sendiri, mereka masih boleh daftar ya. Because biasanya not all jobs are big job that require tender. Biasanya kalau tender memang official ya, tender ataupun perolehan ataupun sebuah harga biasanya official dan dia menggunakan alamat PTJ. But for personal approach ya, maknanya lecturers kadang approach juga industry, approach company dan company keluarkan surat lantikan, boleh daftar, tidak ada tidak ada restriction on tawaran tu, sama ada dia pergi kepada PTJ, dia pergi kepada rektor ataupun dia pergi pada pensyarah sendiri, masih boleh didaftarkan seperti biasa sebagai perundingan. Okey, berkenaan dengan syarikat, memang ada pensyarah dan memang ramai pensyarah yang memiliki syarikat sendiri ya. Dan syarikat ni biasanya mereka boleh tubuhkan selepas mendapat kebenaran daripada VC. So memang pejabat VC pun ada meluluskan beberapa syarikat yang maknanya mereka boleh beroperasi lah. Especially under architecture ya. Biasanya under architecture mereka untuk maintain dia orang punya professionalism, they have to serve like they have to practice ya. So atas dasar ni memang misi ada membenarkan syarikat-syarikat ditubuhkan sebagai syarikat sedang berhad di luar ya. So bagaimana syarikat ni boleh contribute balik kepada UiTM? Pertama boleh bagi some of the job ya, some of consultancy job kepada mana-mana staff UiTM, dan staff UiTM tu boleh daftarkan ya, boleh daftarkan job tu sebagai consultancy. So kat situ akan ada contribution kepada UiTM. And kita ada juga buat satu permohonan di mana as a business owner dia nak mendaftar ya, dia nak mendaftar sebagai perundingan walaupun kerja-kerja dijalankan di dalam syarikatnya. So kita telah mendapat kelulusan, cuma saya tak ada detail dia dekat dalam slide ni ya. Yang ini memang di luar daripada konsultansi, tapi kita telah mendapat kelulusan, maknanya you boleh contribute ya daripada you punya hasil keuntungan daripada syarikat, you boleh contribute kepada sebagai konsultansi ya, and then apa yang you contribute tu adalah dikira sebagai konsultansi. So mungkin yang ini I akan bagi you the exact clause ya, the exact clause yang kita ada, di mana kalau syarikat nak contribute, apa yang dia contribute adalah boleh dikira sebagai kerja-kerja konsultansi ya.
Doktor, adakah let's say pensyarah yang didaftar syarikat dia dengan SSM tu, dia perlu declare dengan PJI ke apa? Maknanya mana-mana pensyarah dalam perkeliling UiTM ada skala yang menyatakan bahawa pensyarah yang ada apa-apa berdaftar dengan SSM dan sebagainya mestilah memaklumkan kepada PTJ ataupun pihak ketua jabatan.
Yang ini sebenarnya ruling, tak silap saya ruling dalam JPA. Dalam ruling tu kita sebagai khidmat awam, kita tak boleh form syarikat without kelulusan ya. So maknanya kelulusan tu memang penting. So yang saya tahu kelulusan tu memang kena dapat daripada VC, cuma saya tak pasti sama ada penurunan kuasa tak daripada VC kepada rektor untuk membenarkan pensyarah ataupun untuk meluluskan pensyarah untuk menubuhkan syarikat. So
sebab saya tengok student UiTM ni dia sangat menggalakkan student masuk entrepreneur dan sebagainya, dan saya pelik lah apabila kalau pensyarah yang ada scholarship, ada profesor, ada doktor yang sebenarnya ada ilmu, ada PhD, ada master, mereka lebih rational dan reasonable dan mereka banyak menyumbang. Saya harap sebab saya pun memang saya maklumkan lah daripada saya punya syarikat biasa je pun, kita semua orang boleh daftar lah SSM ni, student pun boleh daftar, apa lagi pensyarah. So bila kita daftar, saya highlightkan saya tak nak berlaku ada masalah-masalah tindakan tata tertib, tak faham dasar universiti, SOP. So kita mature, kita ada ilmu, so we follow the procedure. So saya selalu maklumkan pada universiti apa saya buat, so supaya tidak timbul isu di masa hadapan. Cuma bila saya cek ada agak kekeliruan timbul, dia kata tidak ada satu garis panduan untuk memaklumkan lagi dalam sistem tertentu. Sebab itu bagi saya, saya memang play safe lah, takut nanti dia akan backfire balik. Thank you Dr. Thank you for interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. So like I said lah, I think actually lecturer buka company di luar memang satu yang serius lah sebenarnya. So sebab tak silap memang dia not only UiTM tapi sebab dia tertakluk di dalam perundangan JPA. It's not that bukan kita tak boleh buka, tapi the SOP tu kena follow lah. I think kalau SOP dia kena kelulusan VC, at the moment yang I tahu adalah dengan kelulusan VC. So probably you can take the next step lah. The next step is actually to maklumkan kepada VC ataupun just get a form, ada form kan tak silap ya. Just get a form signed by VC to show that your activity is actually within UiTM punya radar.
Macam saya memang ada maklumkan, tapi VC kita bertukar kan. Sebelum VC Prof Azrain, saya Profesor Emeritus Hasan Said, saya dah hantar lah. Saya dah hantar lama dah begitu. Okay, Prof. Thank you Dr.
Okay. So yang ni tadi ada exemption is seminar and training, but we are actually I think the next JKP we will submit a working paper to get kelulusan. Hopefully kita akan dapat kelulusan lah for training and seminar, because training and seminar I think is the one of the easiest way that we can generate income for everybody. Maknanya skill yang semua lecturer ada. Okay, untuk yang kelulusan ya. So this is actually kelulusan projek perundingan. So untuk projek perundingan value that is above 500,000, the person yang boleh luluskan adalah VC ya. So meaning that any project, consultancy project, if it is more than 500,000, require MOA, require VC approval. And then for 500 and below, for Selangor, it is our TNCTI, and for branches, it is rector approval. So that is for 500k and below. Okay, other requirement, academic staff must work must not interfere with staff core responsibility. Ya, tak boleh mengganggu tugas hakiki. So that means once we do our consultancy job, tugas hakiki adalah fully our responsibility. And then for non-academic staff, work must be done outside the office hour and with superior's approval. Yeah, so meaning our admin staff, they can also register their consultancy, yeah, but it has to be after 5, or if it is within office hour, that means the person must take leave for the day. And then UiTM contract staff, contract must not expire within the next 6 months. Yeah, so meaning that anybody, if we have a contract staff, so make sure that the contract will not expire within the next 6 months. But if the contract expire and project not completed yet, so UiTM staff can change the status from UiTM staff to external consultant. And then staff on leave, staff on study leave, unpaid leave and sabbatical leave are not allowed to do consultancy work. Yeah. Okay, additional term imposed on consultancy work. Number 1, must comply with the procedures set by the university and the government. So we have to follow what is being declared by Ministry of Finance. Yeah, certain tasks, for example, physical activity regarding physical, maknanya like constructions, it cannot be done under consultancy. And then staff are not allowed to sign any document that can bind the university before Jawatan Kuasa Akaun Amanah. That is insyaAllah we have Jawatan Kuasa Akaun Amanah and cawangan probably dengan rector's approval. And then number 3, subcontraction works are not allowed before approval of Jawatan Kuasa Akaun Amanah and work must be detailed out in the MOA. So subcontraction works, this is also quite common. For example, kadang ada lecturers yang buat consultancy job tapi ambil keuntungan atas angin. Maknanya probably 80% of the work is done by other company. So for this type of consultancy work, staff has to be very careful, because if the amount is more than 50,000, so they should follow the procedure by MOF, kena ada 3 sebut harga dan sebagainya. Kalau more than 500k, I think kena tender out, So to avoid these complications, biasanya if there is any subcontraction work and if the amount is large, more than 50k, make sure it is mentioned in the MOA and make sure we identify the company that we are going to pay in MOA so that we don't have we don't face difficulty in order to pay for the subcontractors later on. And then staff are not allowed to sign any agreement that impose financial burden to the university without approval of Jawatan Kuasa Akaun Amanah or rector's approval. So sometimes there is hidden financial burden. It has to be made known because all this financial burden is at the end of the day, it will still impact the university. Okay, consultancy guidelines. Guidelines, I will not detail out on the guidelines in this slide because the guideline is spelled out in detail in our policy and guidelines. So the details, you can refer to our policy and guidelines. What we describe in details in terms of costs, advance for traveling, profit distribution, payment for wages, payment for reimbursement, and direct payment to vendor. So all these are actually financial process, financial process which is similar to your other research project. So project registration, I will detail out later. The usage of university facility, we must make sure that there is some amount allocated for the usage of facilities. And then asset purchase must be spelled out, especially in MOA. And then at the end of the day, we must make sure that the project is closed. And then what can be considered as project cost and how can we finance our project through advance, So pendahuluan pelbagai, pendahuluan perjalanan. Okay, in terms of project management, project cost, as agreed between client and university, which normally we spell out in MOA, as set by UiTM bursary, MOF, special approval from the university. So, in terms of cost, project cost, we normally have priority. First, we will check the MOA. Anything that is spelled out in MOA, normally we don't have any problem in making payment for the cost. And then, if it is not spelled out, we have to follow the procedure. We have to follow what has been set by our bendahari, and we have to also refer to MOF because certain amount we have to follow the procedure whereby it has to be done through e-perolehan. And then spending procedure also subject to our bendahari and what has been spelled out in the MOF. So we have to follow very closely our bendahari ruling and also our MOF ruling. And then university facilities at the rate set by the faculties or bursary and is part of the project cost. For example, contohnya kalau kita nak buat training, kita akan menggunakan satu dewan for example. So dewan ni biasanya universiti dia akan ada kos yang telah ditetapkan. So whatever facilities yang telah ditetapkan kos, we have to allocate that in our budget. And then project funding is subjected to Jabatan Kuasa Akaun Amanah or BITKOM approval. So in our policy, there is also a clause whereby if for your project delivery, you need some funding. So funds can be obtained from UiTM. Maknanya kita boleh minta pendahuluan, pendahuluan pelbagai, biasanya pelbagai, untuk menjalankan kerja-kerja perundingan walaupun projek ni kita belum dapat apa-apa bayaran. Okay? But normally we advise consultant to actually request for certain amount as advance. Maknanya sebelum the moment you dah sign contract ataupun sebelum projek berjalan, you dah minta mereka bayar like 10% daripada project value. So project funding biasanya kalau untuk cawangan dia depends on the availability of fund. Kalau cawangan mereka ada tabung yang berasingan yang memang digunakan untuk untuk projek-projek perundingan. So maknanya dalam dasar kita dah tetapkan dibenarkan pensyarah untuk menggunakan dana sedia ada untuk menjalankan projek-projek perundingan sebelum sebelum bayaran diterima. But normally we are very skeptical in terms of giving advance, sebab we have to check the background of the company. Biasanya kalau company tu adalah government ataupun big private company, normally kita tak risau sangatlah untuk bagi funding. But if company tu adalah company yang agak-agak kecil, yang macam kita sendiri tak confident, so for this type of company, make sure before you do your consultancy job, you sign the memorandum of agreement. So memorandum of agreement, in case you tak dapat bayaran, you can UiTM legal can take action. Kami boleh tuntut ataupun boleh bawa kes ni untuk ke peringkat legal lah. Okay, project cost. Rental for the use of university premises, kita guna classroom, kita guna dewan, ada cost kat situ yang kita boleh bayar pada UiTM. So in fact this is one way yang kita boleh contribute balik kepada UiTM dengan mengguna pakai apa-apa facility yang ada di UiTM. And then project leader is responsible for any borrowing of equipment. So di sini kalau kita nak pinjam projector for example, so the responsibility dia adalah kepada project leader. Purchase and disposal of university equipment is in accordance to the university procedure. So kalau kita nak beli aset, kita kena ikut procedure university. Nak beli laptop pun kita kena ikut. And return of any asset purchase for our client must be spelled out in the agreement. So this one you have to be very careful. Sebab kami pernah ada satu experience di mana projek dia adalah membangunkan server. Membangunkan server dengan Kementerian Kesihatan, kata tak silap. So problem dia di sini bila UiTM beli server dan perunding, they have to set up the server, they have to put in the software, where at the end of the project, perunding need to return that server to Kementerian Kesihatan. So because that it is not spelled out in the agreement, we face difficulty in order to deliver the server to our client. So in order to deliver the server to our client, we have to go through MEU meeting, we have to go through LPU meeting. Once they are confident that the server really belong to our client, baru kita dapat pulangkan. So for this kind of project, we have to spell out very clearly in the MOA. And then use of any consumable items belonging to the university must be written. So contohnya kat sini kita menggunakan kertas, kita menggunakan ink yang kita guna di pejabat kita. So in the policy we did not spell out whereby you have to include that in the project cost. Untuk small item ni in the policy we just say that whatever you borrow, whatever you use, you have to replenish, you have to return it back. Maknanya you ambil barang, you pulang dalam bentuk. Okay, professional fee. So for government and private or statutory body, amount subjected to client categories. So for government, under MOF, it is 2.2 of your gaji pokok. Yeah. But for private, as long as you know your market value, yeah, so you can charge any amount based on the market value. And then professional fee can be paid if payment has been received from client or sufficient balance is in the account, only if requested by the project leader. So honorarium, yeah, honorarium only project leader can request for honorarium to be paid by the team members. And honorarium can only be paid if your ledger, if your account has a positive balance, yeah. So it doesn't have the project doesn't have to end yet. Yeah, you can take your honorarium probably at the middle of the project term, as long as you have paid all the costs that you have incurred. Yeah, so maknanya dalam satu project bukan bermakna honorarium you boleh ambil sekali je, but you can take as many time, but you have to make sure that you have sufficient balance in order to deliver the project. And then under university ruling, professional fee may be determined by the university. Yeah. At the moment for consultancy, for honorarium, there is no ruling that says certain amount can be paid. Yeah. Maknanya we still open as long as there is balance. Yeah, there is balance in the project, you can take everything out as consultancy. And then fee of the external consultant will also be subjected to tax and service fee. Yeah. So maknanya kalau kita ada perunding luar, boleh boleh dikenakan cukai jugalah, dan admin fee. Tak silap admin fee anything that is below 10%. Okay, MOF certificate, we are registered under 13 kepala bidang. Yeah. So for MOF, sekiranya cawangan perlu menggunakan MOF, projek itu boleh didaftarkan di Shah Alam, ya. Dan kita ada juga arrangement di mana projek itu boleh dijalankan di Shah Alam ataupun projek itu boleh dijalankan di cawangan, ya. Whereby Shah Alam akan invoice, the money will go to cawangan, we can send the money to cawangan. But there is certain percentage lah kita ambil daripada RMU punya portion untuk service fee, ya. And the rest that belongs to cawangan kita boleh hantar kepada cawangan lah. Okay, kita juga berdaftar dengan HRDF. Okay, registration process ini untuk registration process di Shah Alam, ya. So at the moment hanya Shah Alam menggunakan sistem icon secara penuh, ya. And for cawangan it's still under PJI office, whereby all the document, ya, surat tawaran, surat akuan, borang pendaftaran, belanjawan projek, you have to submit to the PJI office, ya. And then PJI office akan semak dokumen dan akan daftarkan dokumen tu di icons, ya. So at the moment hanya PJI office yang boleh daftarkan projek perundingan cawangan di icon, dan kemudian untuk pengesahan projek dan dimajukan kepada rektor untuk kelulusan, di mana kelulusan ataupun surat lantikan adalah datang daripada rektor. Untuk MyATP, bila PJI office daftarkan di icon, MyATP akan tarik the data directly from icon, ya. Maknanya kita cuma kena pastikan yang semua projek tu telah berdaftar di dalam icon dan MyATP akan tarik direct. Okay, NDA, MOA dan MOU. Okay.
Puan, sorry for interrupt. Okay. Tentang perundingan tadi didaftarkan bawah icons, yang tidak berbayar pun kita kena daftarkan ke Puan?
Okay, yang tidak berbayar sebab actually untuk cawangan Selangor kita cuma daftarkan yang berbayar sahaja. But untuk cawangan masih ada beberapa cawangan yang masih daftarkan projek-projek yang tidak berbayar. Okay, so maknanya at the moment kita tak lock lagi lah, maknanya you boleh daftar jugalah yang tidak berbayar. Dan ada weightage yang berbeza, tak silap saya dalam MyATP yang berbayar weightage dia lain, and then sebagai ahli weightage dia lain, sebagai ketua projek weightage dia lain. So yang ini adalah dalam calculation MyATP.
Okay, baik, terima kasih.
Okay, sama. Okay.
Assalamualaikum Puan Hasna.
Salam, ya.
Saya nak tanya tentang projek perundingan tanpa bayaran. Sebab sekarang ni untuk cawangan, projek perundingan tanpa bayaran, kita tak boleh masukkan dalam ikon sebab tak ada expert access dibuka kepada cawangan. Jadinya, bila nak tarik ke MyATP, dia hanya boleh tarik data yang kita masuk dalam icons, which is projek perundingan dengan bayaran sahaja. Sebab tanpa bayaran selama ni kita maintain record tu guna Excel manual. Jadi macam mana tu Puan?
Okay. Untuk cawangan, walaupun tanpa bayaran tapi daftar dalam ikon macam biasa.
Maksudnya dalam ikon nanti akan bercampur lah projek perundingan dengan bayaran dan tanpa bayaran?
Ya. Dia akan bercampur dan MyATP dia ada dia punya calculation, dia filter sendirilah. Dia akan filter yang tanpa bayaran dengan yang berbayar.
Oh, okay. So maksudnya lepas ni semua record yang kami dah maintain secara manual tu kita masukkan dalam icon lah semua supaya MyATP boleh tarik semua data.
Yes.
Okay, terima kasih Puan.
Okay, sama. Okay, NDA, Non-Disclosure Agreement, ya. MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, dan MOA, Memorandum of Agreement. Okay. So the difference between the three, NDA is actually to maintain confidentiality of probably the product, yeah. MOU, MOU is sometimes we use that in order to lock the project, yeah. So MOU ni diistilahkan dalam perundingan sebagai peminangan, okay. So maknanya kita dah build repo dengan dengan company luar, dengan our client, yeah. And we don't want the project to go to other people, so kita buat MOU dulu. And then bila kita dah ada the exact, yeah, we have a proper agreement, kita dah setuju dengan bayaran semuanya, so di sini baru kita go for Memorandum of Agreement, okay. So the process at the moment, because we are actually in the process of getting penurunan kuasa. So before this, under IRMI kita memang ada penurunan kuasa, meaning that any MOA that is for project 500,000 and below, PNC boleh tanda tangan. But because that IRMI telah ditiadakan, so we cannot use that anymore. So we are in the process of submitting another penurunan kuasa. So at the moment, since we don't have that, kita guna the normal procedure. Yeah. So the normal procedure kat sini, first draft by UiTM atau by client, meaning that we have to come up with the first draft. Dan that first draft dihantar kepada PUU, ya. PUU akan buat semakan and then verified by and agreed by both parties. So biasanya dia akan ada pergi balik, ya, whereby until both party agreed with the content of the MOU or MOA, yeah, then only we send that to MEU for approval, yeah. And then at the moment, for any MOA signing, it's by VC, yeah. Okay, this is financial claims for UiTM Selangor. And for cawangan, for cawangan, you have to follow the current procedure whereby you have to inform PJI office, and for cawangan normally they go direct to bendahari, yeah. But banyak cawangan bendahari they maintain a separate tabung for consultancy work, yeah. And especially for project perundingan that is not a one-time job, ya. Maknanya dia ada progress payment, dia ada first invoice, second invoice, third invoice until the project ends. So for this kind of project, you have to submit to PJI office, and it is very important that PJI office also have a ledger, yeah. And perunding also important to have a ledger so that you can monitor how much money that you have UiTM has received and how much you have issue payment and how much claim that you have taken out from the project. So for this kind of for cawangan, because that it is direct to bendahari, and sometimes whatever payment that we make to bendahari, it's very difficult for bendahari to extract back, to extract the ledger, because the system that we use in UiTM is not that friendly in terms of extracting financial information. So very important that we keep a ledger for ourselves. And then checklists and forms for financial claims. So as we know, there is many categories of claim, and there are many forms involved. So in our website, we have under download forms, we have these financial forms. And then kalau tengok sini, advance payment request, there is request checklist. So that checklist you can use as a guidelines, because in the checklist we have identified what forms need to be submitted. So this at least helps. And then in the form there is also explanation if the purchase is 10,000 and more, how many quotations that is required in order for you to submit to our bendahari. So it helps actually. Okay, agihan, fund or profit distributions. We have for private different for private sector, for statutory bodies, and for overseas. Okay, for the private, statutory bodies, and overseas, the amount that we put aside for the university is actually 20% of project value. So the 20% for project value, this this was approved during JKP 23 December 2014, where the division is 5% TNCPI, IRMI, there's no longer IRMI, TNCPI, or RMU, and then 2% will go to tabung KY. So this tabung KY, normally the university use that to purchase equipment. And then 4% faculty or center, and then 5% dana kecemerlangan, 4% MDAB. Okay, so this 20% will be deducted based on the amount received. For example, project value is 100,000, but we have received 50,000. So that 20% will be applied to the 50,000 only, for the first agihan. And then for the next 50,000 that we receive, we will take another 20% for the distributions. Okay, for government, there is special approval that we obtained on 7th of December 2016, whereby government agency project with the government agency, consultant has the options to choose 20% of project value or 30% on the net income. So maknanya 20% ke atas kos projek, 30% ke atas keuntungan setelah ditolak kos. Okay, so which one to choose? I normally advise consultant to do some simulations, because sometimes project that involve high cost, contohnya contract research, contract research normally the cost involve cost yang tinggi, and the profit is just certain amount, probably just how many percent of the total value. So it is more, it is better to take the 30% on net income. And project like training biasanya dia lebih banyak kepada honorarium, sedikit sahaja untuk cost, probably on foods and so on lodging. So for training, probably it's profitable to take 20% on project value. So whichever it is, you can do some simulation before you agree to choose whether 20% on cost or 30% on net income. But the condition here, pemilihan dibuat semasa pendaftaran projek dan penukaran tidak dibenarkan setelah atau semasa projek dijalankan. So meaning that you have to decide early, meaning that when you register, you have to inform which one do you choose. Is it 20% on project value or 30% on the net income? And then the deduction to the university is different. Yeah. For the 20% on project value, it is taken upon receipt of payment. Yeah. So bila kita dapat bayaran 50,000, we'll take upfront 20%. But for 30% on net income, we can only take that at the end of the project. Kalau projek tu 2 tahun lah baru university boleh potong that 30%. The reason simply because we don't know at the beginning, we don't know what is the real income, yeah, what is the real profit from the project. So one is taken at the beginning, the other one is taken at the end of a project. Okay, special provision approved by UiTM. External consultant may be subjected to a service fee of not more than 10%. Okay, so maknanya for us, kita kena pay the university 30%, ya, 30% of the, biasanya 30% of the net income or 30% of honorarium. But for external consultant, we don't need to take that 30%, but the most we can charge them is 10% for the service fee. And then an incentive of not more than 5% of the project net income may be granted to UiTM staff who secured the project, provided that he or she is not in the project team. Okay, so this is a good news for those who like to look for project but they are only interested in getting the project but do not want to involve in the project. Yeah. So for this one, maknanya you may go to the agency, you may go to the government sector, you may go to the client, you may lobby for the project, and let's say you get the project, but you do not want to be involved in the project, you can pass that to somebody else. Yeah. So kat situ you just secured that 5% of the income can be your incentive. Yeah. So that 5% incentive is for those who like to look for projects but doesn't want to be involved in the running of the project. Yeah. And then staff may claim project income through payment of honorarium or purchase of goods. However, claim is subjected to the university's financial procedure. Okay. So you can claim your honorarium in terms of cash, in terms of money, yeah, to be included in your payroll, or you can claim your income or your honorarium through purchase of items. For example, yeah, you want to purchase a laptop, so you can use the amount of money, the amount of honorarium. When it is calculated how much is your honorarium, you can use that amount to purchase laptop. It is in the clause that we on the special approval that we obtained from UiTM. Okay, closure of project, penutupan project. Yeah, project completed or terminated, so we have to inform. Yeah, maknanya we have to inform PGI office that the project has completed, so that PGI office can close your record and bendahari can also close your ledger. Okay, and then suppose that you need more time, you need extensions, so make sure you inform and get written permissions from client that you require the extensions. Yeah, and then before you close the project, make sure there is zero balance in the ledger. Yeah, and if there is no feedback received from consultants after 6 months, project will be closed and balance can be distributed by Jawatan Kuasa Akaun Amanah for Shah Alam. So meaning that PGI office can decide. Ya, contohnya you nak tutup projek tu dah lama berakhir and there is some cash dalam ledger, so you boleh tutup after 6 months. Okay, how consultancy contribute to MIRA? Ada beberapa sectors, ya. Contract research, mana-mana projek perundingan dalam kategori contract research dia akan dimasukkan, ya, dia akan dikira sebagai contract research sama ada national atau international. Dan selainnya, training akan dimasukkan dalam kategori training di dalam section F2, and ada juga yang mana kadang-kadang ada tech know-how, ya, tech know-how dimasukkan dalam section G, dan selebihnya adalah di dalam consultancy. Okay. And also MOA also contribute to Myra, dan juga summary report kalau ada pun boleh dikira sebagai publication. So at the moment yang ini rasanya bisa alam sahaja sebagai kita denominator untuk UiTM. Okay, responsibilities towards client, yeah. Serve the contract, very important, and make sure we build good rapport, yeah. We build good rapport with the company. So normally when we build good rapport, we can get more project in the future, and make sure that the service that we provide is quality service. And one important thing, maintain confidentiality. So this confidentiality, whether it's towards UiTM or towards client, and ensure client satisfaction. So in any consultancy work, the minimum that you should have, yeah, because not all consultancy work ada MOA. So the minimum that you should have is the term of reference, yeah. So the term of reference, make sure it is spelled out clearly what is the kind of deliverable is expected by the client, okay? And especially very important is it involves software development, yeah? In software development, you have to have a proper documentation in terms of user requirement, yeah? So otherwise, the target will keep on moving, where at the end of it, there is a high possibility that software may not be able to be delivered. Yeah? And then responsibility towards UiTM, make sure you maintain good work ethic, maintain confidentiality of UiTM data, yeah? And then make sure serve your core responsibility, tugas hakiki, maintain UiTM good name, and protect the university competitiveness. So what it means by protect the university competitiveness, we have to go back to our core business. UiTM core business is course, yeah, training, syllabus, yeah. So these are our core business, and definitely syllabus is very confidential. It's a confidential document and something that require all UiTM staff to protect our syllabus. So what it means here, when you develop syllabus for other people, make sure that UiTM syllabus is still the best, yeah. And then responsibility of the project leader, make sure you treat your team member fairly, be responsible, follow procedure, manage project successfully, and manage project financial transaction, yeah. So before this policy, for example, pendahuluan, ya, pendahuluan pelbagai, not only the project leader can approve, but team member can go directly to bendahari and can claim pendahuluan. Okay, but now to make sure that project leader able to manage the whole project, yeah, walaupun pendahuluan, it has to go through the project leader, yeah? So that project leader is in the know of all the financial transactions generated by the project. Yeah? Okay, itu sahaja on the consultancy. Ada soalan?
Okey, kami buka soalan kepada para peserta sekiranya ada apa-apa nak tanya kepada Puan Rosnah.
Puan, saya ada dua soalan. Yang pertama, contoh kita bagi ceramah ke whatever things like they invite us to deliver speeches and diorang tak bagi surat, dalam surat tu dia tak tulis amount. For instance, dia bagi kita dalam let's say 500 lah kan. Tapi in that official letter, dia cuma panggil kita as a speaker saja, dia tak tulis amount. So when we come back to university, attitude saya adalah saya akan refer sentiasa consistently dengan PJI dan saya akan maklum kepada PJI. So ada satu form kita declare lah yang mana amount yang kita terima itu. Jadi benda soalan saya, adakah itu memadai, sebab kadang-kadang ada dia sebut urus setia atau organizer, they feel that dia tak nak declare, dia just macam bagi on off masa kita pergi. Cuma dia bagi offer letter untuk datang ceramah je lah. Okay, that is the questions. Second is satu lagi pengalaman saya tengok ada company sekarang, kebanyakan jabatan kerajaan dia dah tahu tau penjanaan pendapatan universiti ni. Saya nak Puan share jugalah dengan management dekat Shah Alam bila ada meeting, sebab kebanyakan federal, state, local government dia dah tahu yang universiti buat penjanaan pendapatan. So what's going on adalah bila kita minta surat katakan surat yang offer berapa apa semua, dia tanya balik kita kenapa surat ni. Dia kata ya, kita kena follow the SOP, internal SOP, sebab apa-apa pencara buat pun mesti kena declare dengan universiti. So lagi satu, function apa benda semua dia orang nak tahu, sebab nanti akan ada pengiraan dari segi penjanaan pendapatan dan sebagainya. So ada kebanyakan jabatan kerajaan dia tak nak bayar dengan pensyarah tau, dia just suruh pensyarah buat satu program, and then what will happen is dia akan bayar pada katakan vendor tu terus. Contohnya orang yang bekalkan makanan kan kita ada kita beritahu costing budget berapa-berapa, so dia akan bayar direct tau, dia tak bayar pada lecturer. So dia nak elakkan universiti ambil portion tu, dia terus bayar kepada siapa yang bekalkan makanan. Kalau saya jemput ada beberapa orang penceramah membantu saya, dia akan bayar direct kepada penceramah tu. So dia tak nak macam dia tak kira stakeholders. Dia dah mula menampak penjanaan universiti di Malaysia ni semua menjana pendapatan. So kementerian-kementerian dia tak ada bajet. So ada setengah kementerian, saya tak cakap semua, ada setengah. So this is my experience lah. The second sharing, second ni dia bukan soalan, dia lebih pada sharing my experience. The first one is a question. Thank you Puan.
Okay, the first one, okay. For example, you dapat 500, you dapat 500, and then it doesn't have to be offer letter sebenarnya. As long as you have the evidence, and the fact that you nak declare tu pun dah good enough sebenarnya. But in terms of the amount, probably you just kata you terima 500. So you can just find any kind of evidence yang mengatakan you terima 500 untuk projek tu, so that can already can be registered as consultancy. Okay, on the other one, government dia pun direct untuk bayaran katalah catering ke apa. I think it's okay as long as whatever service that you provide, they pay you. Okay, so you as an, for example, event organizer. So as an event organizer, maknanya there is a job, there is a service that you provide to the government agencies. So that amount, you have to make sure that the amount is in the agreement. Berapa yang government bayar you untuk servis sebagai event manager, for example. So that is the amount yang you kena register lah. In term of dia nak bayar direct untuk catering, I think that one is okay. Catering is okay. Cuma takut untuk speaker you dah organize, government dah bayar speaker, but you as an organizer you tak dapat apa-apa. So kat situ you have to protect. Did I answer your question?
Puan, thank you.
Okay. Soalan lagi?
Okay, ada apa-apa soalan lagi daripada para peserta? Okey, tak ada ya? Itu saja kan?
Okay, remain online. Kalau ada siapa nak tanya after the other session pun boleh.
Okey, terima kasih banyak-banyak Puan Nur Hasna di atas penjelasan yang cukup lengkap tadi ya. Jadi kita akan teruskan sesi taklimat kita pada hari ini. Untuk sesi yang seterusnya, taklimat tentang pendaftaran harta intelek dan perkomersialan. Saya jemput Puan Fariza Muhammad Isa, Coordinator of Intellectual Property Bitkom UiTM Shah Alam untuk meneruskan taklimat. Dipersilakan.
Okey, terima kasih. Khabar orang Melaka, harap semua sihat ya.
Baik.
Terima kasih sebab jemput kami untuk bagi taklimat. Tak nak break dulu ke? Lepas konsultansi punya taklimat yang sangat padat tadi. Tak ya?
Mungkin boleh teruskan Puan.